Welcome to the Divine Feminine Revolution podcast, where women are magical and empowered. I'm your host, Dr. Megan Monday, psychologist turned transformational feminine business coach. This podcast is for you if you want to prioritize your own pleasure, face your fears, and manifest your desires. This podcast is sponsored by the Fearless Feminine Academy, where I teach women how to turn their trauma into their superpowers. My goal is to show women that we can heal our world by creating time and financial freedom by doing whatever the fuck we want. Are you ready for the Divine Feminine Revolution? Let's get vulnerable and go deep. I'm so honored that you're here. Welcome to the Divine Feminine Revolution podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Megan Monday, and I'm really excited. We've been chatting in the green room, chatting it up with Caitilin Anderson, the science teacher you wish you had. We were talking about all the reasons why, and we're going to talk about them here too. I always start off the episodes by doing a brag intro. So you know the drill, you're going to brag. So let's hear your juicy intro.
Oh my goodness. So do you want me to do a brag?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. Absolutely.
Like how amazing you are.
Oh yes. Well, yeah. My name is Caitilin, and I brag. I am the science teacher of your dreams. Mm-hmm. Like I'm her. She is me. and I brag this not because I'm the smartest scientist. I'm not the smartest scientist, but I am the most attuned. I love you so much, even if I've never met you before, because I know that you're a scientist already. And I love the way you think. And I make that clear over and over again through my celebratory philosophy of teaching and doing science together. So even if you are a PhD in physics, or if you say, I'm so bad at science, everything, all of you on the spectrum of yes, science or science, like you all belong. And everyone that joins a science class with me walks away feeling so good about themselves.
Reclaiming science. I love it.
Reclaiming science. Oh, thank you for that opportunity. That felt wonderful.
Yes. Well, I think this is just like such an important piece. And, like I know you run in some of the similar pleasure circles and, the school system has been going through like its own little revolution / I don't know, breakdown, breakthrough. You tell me, like, what has that, particularly given the COVID years, what was that like in transitioning to this higher calling of, bringing science and reclaiming science for all people?
Ooh. You just asked me a lot of things all at once. Well, actually, before I answer that, I'd actually like to kick it back to you, Dr. Monday. Yes, because you have a daughter, and so I actually wonder what that was like for you, right? I mean, is your daughter in public school actually, or had she been before? Okay.
Oh yeah, like what was the COVID experience like? Yeah, it was crazy because it was like the spring break that we never came back from, and for me, I just started like heavily investing in coaching. And so I was like, I had just done like one of those automated webinars, how those coaches do. And I had just paid like a bundle of money to do this program. And I was just like getting to the point of like running my webinar and ads and everything. And then it was like shut down. And I was like, what? I like didn't plan on this,
Yeah. So definitely from the parent side, it's totally unexpected. We had all of these plans in the spring of 2020, and then suddenly our children are home with us full time.
Yeah.
And you're not only navigating my home environment is different and the energy is different, like 24/7 different, not just a couple hours a day, but it's like the entirety of it is different. So you're not only managing the difference in your expectations and then your career, which is like a totally separate energetic situation, but then also recognizing what's happening with your children. Right.
And
so how was it? Yeah.
It was really interesting because basically we just got like a long summer. I'm over here in Tennessee, like on the East Coast. You know, we really didn't have much of a shutdown compared to some areas. And we had like a yoga trapeze. Do you know what that is? It's like,
sure. Yeah.
And so she would like swing on the yoga trapeze, and she was just every day she'd be like, this is the best day of my life, like during lockdown, or especially like the first month or so of that. And so we got like an extra long summer, and then her school did have like an online option in person. And I really struggled with that. And a lot of my friends did just like take the year to be home with their kids. And I kind of wish I had done that, but I was like in this really intense like career building phase. Yeah. And so I did end up like sending her back. We didn't really have any issues with that. But yeah, and I keep like flirting with the idea of like when all my coaching money comes in, like doing the homeschool thing, and like, you know, you offer like such an awesome service to, you know, like the revolutionary coaches and their kids, you know, to allow them to be like little scientists.
I mean, just imagine, you know, my coach often talks to me about this, and I'll get into like the why I started and everything, but like in the future, I'm just gonna like have all the boss women coaches kids like in, you know, just in my science class. So like y'all can go be a mom boss for an hour or two, right? Like so like your kids are taken care of, and you can take care of business, but then like we're gonna be awesome freaking scientists.
Yeah. And
all over the country. It's so good.
I was in Crystal's mastermind, Crystal Langdon, who was on the podcast. Go check out her episode. But I was in her mastermind kind of at that time as well, like as COVID and the lockdown and everything was happening. And I think it finished up in like June, July or whatever. So it's still like of 2020, you know, it was intense moment in time for sure. And you know, it was amazing because she had a daughter a little bit younger than mine, but like they would do little play dates while we were on a coaching call, because it was just like everyone was trying to survive that moment of like, what the hell is happening and what do we do? So like the new challenges of being a mom boss, but I've thought about that because I'm like constantly, you know, a lot of my coaches are West Coast. Well, I'm East Coast. So that puts me like right at like the pickup line when a lot of these coaching calls are happening. And so my daughter's like been in the background, you know, like she's been on the call. She always interrupts and says hi, or she's like in the car or whatever. Or she's like, are you on a call? Like, can I see your phone? You know, like that thing. So it's been really interesting, but I did just think about like all these like little revolutionary babies who've been like, you know, around for like the revolutionary programs you offer, or like on the coaching calls, or like they're just like growing up. Like I remember there was this one moment where we were on a call with Crystal and people were doing brags, and my daughter's like, are brags bad? And I'm like, oh no. let's correct this assumption like from the beginning, you know. So it's just so cute to see. I'm like, I think we're actually going to do a little bit of like a YouTube camp. Like I really want to start a YouTube channel. My daughter really wants to, so I think we're going to have like a little race to see like whose channel does better.
Wow, I love that idea. My two kids, so my sons are now 5 and 9, and yeah, them too. I mean, so they've been watching lots of YouTube. They like to watch YouTubers who will stream Roblox and Minecraft and things like that. And then when they turn off the Roblox or YouTube, then like nothing will be on, but then you'll hear them like passing the time together going, what's up guys, my name's Remy and welcome to my channel. Like they're like performing what they see, and it's precious. It's so precious. And so I think that's a really great idea. And I mean, and so one of the things that really like pained me as a teacher, we can, you know, weave some sort of the stories, you know, because I was working full time and I'm in California, and I've been in science education in public schools since like 2009, 2010. So like really over a decade of working in public schools and in summer camps, like various forms of education. And what's really unique about me, and one of the reasons I say that like I'm the science teacher you wish you had, and I'm the science teacher of your dreams, is because I've literally taught every single level from K to 12.
Yeah,
which is unusual. That's unusual.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And the benefit of teaching science is that like everybody needs a science teacher. So it was fortunate that I really enjoyed science, and I got a degree in geology back in college. And I had a minor in theater, and I was also doing Glee Club, so I was singing, and it just brought all of my love together in this one career. And I'm also a practicing like Buddhist. I practice Nichiren Buddhism, and so there's this like through line through this religion around like every single person has a Buddha nature. Like we all have Buddhahood inside of us. And you don't need to die in order to like reach nirvana. You can do it right now. And it doesn't matter how old you are, your gender, your like sexual orientation, like none of that matters. You just are, because you're born in this world. And so I've always carried that with me into the classroom as well. And that's really how I've led my pedagogy and led my teaching practice, no matter what level I'm at. So even if I'm teaching first graders versus like 12th grade chemistry, it's sometimes I have to remind myself this human is a Buddha. Being a real asshole right now, but this human is the Buddha. So it was really disheartening, actually, the rhetoric during the shutdown. So even in a progressive place like California, right, there was so much anxiety from administrators and parents and students themselves. Like, I'm falling behind. Oh my God, learning loss. Oh my God, I'm not gonna. And I mean, it was particularly troubling for juniors and seniors because they're expecting to have this year in person. But you know, but me, I'm going just to that end about, you know, people making podcasts and YouTube channels, and even the language that my son had around Zoom within just a couple of weeks, right? How many participants are there? Should we type something in the chat? Who's the host? Who can mute people, right? You know, the language that he picked up so quickly, like rapidly learning. So I'm going, what learning loss? They're learning.
Like
they
real
are so technologically savvy, actually. And it bothers me. I mean, and it's not surprising, really, because if we've had decades and generations of very narrow definition of what academic success looks like, then of course, anytime it changes, people are going to freak the fuck out.
Yeah. You know, I think about my friend's son he's 11 now. So he did like a year, I guess probably his 4th grade year, I'm guessing. And she was like, he's ready for college. He like gets himself up to the alarm and he like logs onto his Zoom and he like does all his own stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. How did you do that? But like, you know, those are the life skills. You know, my background is like a psychologist. So I've done a lot of like therapy with like teens and families and clients and stuff like that. And I feel like, you know, for the younger generations, like they have so many like amazing, just like gifts and superpowers and, you know, wisdom and all this sort of stuff. But like, I think because of our modern instant gratification society, like they don't have like some basic skills of like how to live on their own, you know, well, obviously like developmental, but.
To be fair, though, you know, I graduated from college in 2009, kind of like in the height of No Child Left Behind and like get good grades and never miss a day of school. Like I graduated magna cum laude from my college, like a private college and everything. And as soon as I graduated, I was like, oh no, now what? Yeah. I'm not going to graduate school. I decided I wasn't going to go to graduate school, like worked at summer camp. And I was like, what do I do now though? And there was a piece of me that's like, I understand school, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to teach in school because that's what I understand. But like going and getting some other like quote unquote real job was very terrifying. Like I didn't know how to budget. Still working on that. You know what I mean? I mean, I could cook some things for myself, but I didn't really know how to like buy groceries that then wouldn't go bad. Like I didn't know how to buy the right amount for me. I was used to like my parents buying things so I could see what a full fridge looked like for a family of 4.
Right.
But for me as a single person, woo. And, you know, so I mean, I just always like preface, you know, when people say things like, oh, these kids lack basic skills. And I'm like, well, no one taught me basic skills either. I floundered for 5 years. Not maybe it wasn't that long, but I just think that it's a mistake to say that it, and I'm not saying that you're saying this, but like I've heard people say in, you know, the wonderful internet where I've like kind of put myself out there, and then people are like, but the kids are falling behind and they don't know how to blah blah blah. I'm like, hold on though. I did all the things I was told I was supposed to do, and then a recession hit, and I like, you know, my peers, like millennials, are in crushing, crippling debt.
Yeah.
And so, like, please don't come at me with, but you have to get good grades in school, because that is just unequivocally false. That does not guarantee that you will be successful.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, for sure. Yeah.
So, oh no, go ahead. Yeah.
No, go ahead. You. Do it.
Me? Okay. Thanks, Megan. I mean, so I mean, I was just going to sort of pivot and transition to then the idea around my program, the Joyful Learning Laboratory, because you know, I worked in education for over 10 years and had been in public school classrooms, like charter classrooms, and small and big schools, mostly in Title I schools. And if someone doesn't know what that is, it's with a certain percentage of your school population gets free or reduced lunch. So, you know, kind of hovering around the poverty line. And then kids often need extra services like from the government. So I was working with a really like specific population in the San Francisco Bay Area in all of the schools that I taught at, whether it was elementary, middle, or high school. But I really prided myself on being 100% at my job. Like when I'm at work, I'm not thinking about my kids. That's just the boundary that allowed me to be really, really good. But as soon as I leave school, I'm not at work.
Yeah.
So the pandemic really fucked with that. Like, everything is all together. And now I can do neither one of them well. And that was crushing, crippling into like my psyche, right? Like how do I now navigate my self-worth if and I was a newly single parent at this point as well, right? So not only navigating upheaval of your profession, and what a cruel joke too, because I've moved schools many times because I'm so much, and many schools like couldn't handle me, so I've like moved around a lot, which is why I've had the privilege of working K through 12, but then also like figuring out how to do all of this by myself, but now also I can't do anything at 100%, so that means I'm absolutely failing at
that's your fact. Yeah.
So so if giving all of myself, like 100% of myself, isn't good enough, then what gets to be good enough? Do I then like sacrifice what I think is like top tier teaching or top tier momming? Like, and everybody was having these conversations with themselves too, right?
Yeah.
But even if I can sort of manage my expectations, now there's all of these conversations about like the learning loss and learning gap and everything like that, and I'm like killing myself trying to now figure out, once again, I feel like a first year teacher, because like every time you move schools, it's like starting over, even though you bring your classroom management skills and curriculum. For me, it didn't really work, because if I started in a high school chemistry classroom, now I'm going to move down to an elementary school classroom where I'm teaching grades 1 through 6. I can't take hardly anything that I was teaching the last year, right? So it's like I'm literally starting over. And then if I move to a middle school classroom, well, I kind of understand where the kids are in between elementary and high school, but that's a totally different curriculum. And so not only have I like been here before feeling like a first year teacher, but with many years of experience, but now it's all online. So then on top of that, like it's crazy. On top of that, like administrators are telling me like my shit isn't rigorous enough. I'm like, you know what? Actually, I'm literally your most senior science teacher right now in your network. I actually refuse to be spoken to this way.
Good for you.
It was really hard. It was excruciating. It was hard and it wasn't hard, right? I had been feeling the rupture, kind of like the like love lost, right, for the profession, that I'd given like a decade of my life to it. And here I am again, continuing to be not believed, silenced, kind of gaslit professionally.
Ooh.
Mm.
Yeah.
And of course, none of us had a playbook for it. Nobody knew what they were doing. But if I have the courage to say, hey, I'm one of maybe 2 single parents in our network, and I'm telling you this is too much for me to handle. If your response is, no, it's not, because I'm not struggling. Wow, actually, fuck you. because then what's the point of me being here if you're not going to listen to me? It's like you checked a box, had a conversation with Caitlin, but are not going to listen to my valid concerns about my specific circumstance, being the most senior science teacher in the network. Like, no, sorry.
Definitely the patriarchy in action. And, I've had a lot of clients over the years that were teachers, and they were like very gifted. They had a love for it. I mean, they're like literally doing the work of, propelling our society forward by raising our young. And the bureaucracy has just like killed it, like the No Child Left Behind, the testing. I don't know if you agree with that, but like it just killed the, like you can't even teach what you want or do what you want because it's like you got to study the test. Like literally, we just got done with the 2 weeks of testing, for my daughters in 3rd grade. And it was like, they were like sending us like, I'm exaggerating. I'm like an exaggerator, but it felt like if you like check your kid in late on a testing day, like you're gonna be doing the mom walk of shame, and they're gonna like, like they were literally calling like, don't have your kids be late tomorrow. There's testing, and it's like, I mean, they're fucking in 3rd grade, like. Who cares, And so, I mean, I know that that's how they get their money, and that's the whole like bureaucracy piece of it. But I'm like, I just feel like it ruined the school system. So I don't know if that's lines up with your opinion on it, but just as a parent, and people who support teachers, God, I feel like teaching is one of the hardest, like most thankless jobs. So when I saw you developing your learning lab, I'm like, oh, okay, she's privatizing it. Like she's doing it her way, and she's gonna like focus on what's most important, which is like inspiring the kids to actually like it and learn and live it, right?
Yes, exactly. I mean, testing is the behemoth of the patriarchy. It's inserting itself in schools. Like, oh my God. Ugh, yeah. And I mean, and there could be such a simple fix to that, right? My son's also in 3rd grade. Yeah. The simple fix is don't have testing first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
Just test after recess. You dummies. Like, oh my God. Like it's so like kids are going to be late. Parents are going to have things happen. Yeah. And also if they're late, like they'll catch up. They might be the last one to finish. Who the fuck cares? Like all teachers who are worth their salt. This may feel very controversial, but I really do believe this. Like teachers who are worth their salt know the testing is bullshit.
Yeah.
And yet they know like you said, we know we have to do it because of the funding. Yeah. Is this the way school should be funded? Fuck no, it's not how school should be funded.
And I feel like it's like every child left behind when you make it that way, and I just, like, I feel like teachers are like literally killing themselves to like, provide a good experience and like do all the paperwork and check all the boxes and then deal with all of the like administrative bureaucracy bullshit.
And it's not even teaching, right? It's soul sucking. And even if we didn't have all of those things, we would not be able to do our jobs well because of how many children are in our classroom. So I did a really fun experiment where I just took my current salary and I divided it by the number of hours in a school year, and then divided it by the number of kids on my roster.
What'd you get?
Less than $2 per student, like per day, essentially. Yeah. You cannot do anything well for $2. You can't. Maybe in an Asian country where the dollar is really strong, you can get like a good meal for $2 or even like a hotel room, but like for one night, you know what I mean? And that's an unfair comparison and everything like that. But like, if you're going to do a service job, right? If I pay $2 to like get my nails done or get my hair cut or go to a therapist, like I'm going to get what I pay for. really, because it's just like, this is worth $2 to me. And like, that's what society is telling us. Like we have, I think my largest caseload ever was 160 students in a year. Nope, that's wrong. Because when I taught elementary school, I had like 21 classes. So it was like 500 students. I had the whole school that I was teaching science. And I knew every single one of their names first and last.
Whoa. Wow.
Yes. However, I mean, what then gets sacrificed is time, right? So the first through third graders, I got to see once a week for 35 minutes. And if you're coming into the class, it takes like 5 minutes to get settled, and then it takes like 7 minutes to clean up. So you're really only getting like 28 solid minutes of science. But heaven forbid anything emotional happens, or something goes wrong, or there's a fire drill or whatever. Like, we're just getting interrupted all the time by like the human condition. So so part of the reason for starting the Joyful Learning Laboratory, and to very intentionally have no more than like 6 kids in a class, changes the whole atmosphere, right? You just kind of went, right? It's intimate.
Yeah.
You're gonna get to do some real learning. You're gonna be visible in that classroom, because kids can go a whole week never hearing their name. They might go a whole school year never hearing their name.
That burns a little bit. Ouch. I hadn't thought of the practicality of that. My goodness.
Yeah. If English is not your first language, if you have a neurodivergent brain, if you don't feel confident in reading, or, for whatever reason, or like going into a science classroom and you decided at age 10, I'm not good at science, probably because a teacher told you, right? Or I'm not good at math, and therefore I can't do science or math. There's so many choices that a child makes to survive in a classroom that has too many people. And they've learned that the brains that can process quickly and raise their hands, they're the ones who get rewarded. That kind of thinking is celebrated. That kind of response is celebrated. So if your brain needs time to catch up, we're already ahead of you. But in a class of 6 people, I can see you need time, right?
There's time. There's time and attention. Yeah. The things that you don't have in public school, right?
Exactly. And so it's like, instead of a $2 experience in public school, right, you're getting like $100 experience in my class, which is like, ooh, oh my gosh, I want to pay $100 for my haircut kind of thing. Like, or what's worth it, like $100 for my therapy session. Like, I know I'm going to be held in that space.
Yeah.
And I've decided to do my work on Zoom so that people have access to me, because you might have a good teacher, but that's someone that's in your zip code, right? And so why don't we just erase the zip codes and be like, yeah, come to my class. I'm the best science teacher you will ever have. Again, not because I'm the smartest, but because I'm keyed into you and how your brain works, and I can watch what you're doing.
Well, that like really touches my heart, because my husband, when I was in grad school dating, I was learning how to give like the IQ test, and so I just like vetted him out and like practiced on him and gave him an IQ test just to like see. And he's like very brilliant and smart and was like a genius level, but he had ADHD, trouble in school. Like, he tells a story of like I'm sure you would love me telling this on the airwaves, but that's okay, honey. We're gonna tell it anyway. Like, they like locked him in the closet like when he was a kid, because they didn't know how to handle him. And it's because like the school system, he had a learning disability. Like, it wasn't for him because they didn't know what the fuck to do with him. And luckily he found his way into becoming like a machinist and working with his hands and like using his brilliance. But he carried so much stuff around what they put on him because he, they couldn't serve him. They couldn't recognize his needs. And I think that, I've had that happen to so many clients. And I always tell my clients, like, you know, that like, particularly with neurodiverse, you know, people a lot of times carry the baggage of like, I'm not smart. And if you have that
Yes.
limiting belief, that's going to influence your entire life.
It colors everything you do from that moment on.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's reinforced. And it's like, as soon as you're labeled as a problem or
Mm-hmm.
not good or not smart, or like you behave that way, we lock you in the closet.
I know, Tennessee in the 70s or 80s. Not good.
My heart goes out to your hubby. That was not okay that happened to him. That was not okay.
Yeah.
And
but
it's
kids get left behind, and they get, you know, we just love a box and a label, and yet it's not with the intention to really like help or serve. It's just, you know, to stigmatize a lot of times.
One of the things that became really clear in the pandemic is, you know, and educators and parents started really asking the question, like, okay, who is school really for? Who's school for?
Ooh, that's
because, I mean, that was the question I was really wrestling with, because it's sure as hell not the students.
Yeah.
If it was really for kids or the people that work there, we'd have working lights, and we'd have working sinks, and we'd have working bathrooms. Mm-hmm. And we have fewer people in every single class so that every kid could really learn. But no, we have like 30 and upwards, like over 30 kids in some classrooms. Mm. And like you said, it's like everybody gets left behind.
Yeah.
Because even the kids that were getting A's in all of their classes have so much anxiety, because again, we reward those kinds of brains, we reward performance. So they're feeling like it's never going to be enough, is it?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's never going to be enough.
And I noticed, like, with my daughter, when they started doing, I think it was maybe around first grade, they started doing those like time math tests, and she's got 5 planets in Capricorn. Like, okay, like she does not move fast. Like, you know, like that is not how she is like wired. And so it's really, you know, like she would get anxious and then she'd go blank. We freeze, right? When we have that, like the nerves get high enough, we fight, flight, or freeze. Or sometimes as women, we tend to befriend. But you know, it's like, why do we have to have that time pressure component? I remember the little me freaking out over those kind of like time tests as well. And I saw a meme somewhere that's like, if you got like well-behaved student, you now have an anxiety disorder. Like, you know?
Yeah.
As an adult, you know, because like those of us that did like, you know, and I feel like as a people pleaser, I was like, oh my God, I got to be like the good girl. And I was smart and nerdy and like all that stuff. And I just was like, I gotta achieve to be okay, you know?
Oh yeah. And to be valued, to be recognized, to have a seat at the table.
Yeah.
I have to like outperform what I did yesterday. It's not even necessarily about outperforming the men or like
turnout.
It's just like, yeah, absolutely. And so that's really what I was experiencing. Like, I am killing myself, and I care so deeply about these kids in the pandemic, right? That like I can see teaching the content right now is actually not where it's at. Mm-hmm. We need to do social emotional learning. Like I need to like teach you how to be okay.
Crisis work, yeah.
Oh yeah. And crisis work, that's exactly what it is. Like, we're in crisis. And I'm not going to be the teacher that, you know, but so that I got dinged because I like wasn't using enough math in my classroom, and I was like, fuck right off.
Yeah.
How dare you come in here and tell me what my class should look like? How dare you? Damn right there's no math in my class right now. That's what math class is for. Right now we're doing science and the psychology of crisis, right? And I have to take care of our bodies. Because I was learning all of this incredible stuff from Crystal Lang, and I was like, oh my God, I can self-soothe. I don't have to like get my hit of dopamine from like
for Venus. Yeah. Achieving. Yeah. Yeah. And like,
holy shit, I have to share this with everybody, you know.
It's like we're functioning pretty well, and that was like a terrifying and very stressful and, you know, traumatic time for us, but then like, you know, like what about the families that are not as privileged and that, you know, really are like, they're facing, you know, am I going to eat? Like, am I going to survive this? So
a lot of the families that I, you know, was teaching in when I finally left the classroom in January 2020. And so I mean, also this rhetoric around like the learning gap and rah, rah, rah. And I'm like, okay, well, also there are families who have like 5 children and 1 router and mom and dad need to get online. So it's like, who gets to sign on today?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that seems like such a basic thing. And honestly, I totally did not even think about that. Yeah.
Right. And so people are like operating from a very privileged space. Yeah. Well, my child was able to get on but like all of you are falling behind. Like, oh, okay, patriarchy.
Internet, like in rural areas. I mean, internet itself is like a privilege thing. Yeah.
Right, absolutely. So there are all of these like intersectional.
A little Freudian slip, but I'm here for it.
Right. Yeah. I'm trying to say like
intersectionality. Yes. Yeah.
You know, just maybe that's where we want to go next, right? It's all connected, is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, like the intersectional failings of society around like how we really feel. Like if this was really about children, then it would be like county-wide high-speed internet. If this was really about children, we'd all have MacBooks, right? If this was really about children, we'd make sure that every kid has like enough pencils and enough to eat and like glasses if they need to see all of these things. And so they don't. And then school becomes a catch-all to try to make up for these things because we care so deeply about the kids. But like you alluded to, all of these other administrative and like paperwork things, but we also need to teach them. But our children are in crisis and they've signed on for the first time and they're not turning on their camera. Like, I'm not going to force that kid to turn on their camera. But it was so heartbreaking because at the same time, like I'm a teacher and like I'm also like trying to support my 2 children and my sweet, you know, 7-year-old is having a meltdown because he doesn't understand this like stupid fucking teachers pay teachers about John F. Kennedy. You know what I mean? Like, why is he reading this? You know? And so I was just like, what am I even doing? Like, I'm fighting and I hate this. And this isn't even how kids learn. I can't, it was really this moment of, I can't do this anymore. And so initially it was, you know, thinking about all of the girls, especially, right? We talked about this a little bit in the green room before, but like the girls that just decide from early on because of the messaging, right? That I'm not good at math, I'm not good at science, but what if we just had enough time to explore? So in my classes, we do 1 experiment, maybe 2 in an hour, because shit goes wrong in science all the time. Like inevitably happens, especially if you're doing an experiment for the first time. So we in the Joyful Learning Laboratory give permission for things to fail and then to try again.
I love that. Such a powerful life lesson. So needed.
Oh, powerful. I mean, I'm still learning it. You know, also people pleaser, perfectionist, recovering from both of those things. Yeah. And it's like, it's so healing for me also to watch these kids and some of them have been with me since 2020, you know, so that they may be in their like 5th round with me currently now. Oh no, some of them started, I launched in September 2020. And then I really, and back then it was called Dope AF Science. And I had all girls sign up. It was a happy accident, even though this was envisioned for them, for young girls. Because I reasoned, you know, if girls know that, yes, you can do science, it just takes you a little bit longer, or there's permission to like think about it and decide whether or not you want to try again, as opposed to we did it and we move on and then here's the test and we did a new one and then we moved on. It's, nobody can learn that way. Ugh, die. Just die in that. that, environment. And so it's completely flipping the script around how we do learning and how we do science. And then in 2021, I was like, people who know me will understand dope AF science is meant to be like edgy and fun, but I needed a little bit of help to be like, how can I make this like more palatable, but still like be great in person? And so came up with the Joyful Learning Laboratory. And I think it really encapsulates what our classes are like too. It's so joyful in these spaces. And there's client after client, whose kids will sign up and then sign up again and again, who had traumatic experiences in public school because many of the kids actually that come to me have neurodivergent brains and did not experience success in a classroom with 25 to 30 people. And they're experiencing so much success in my classroom. And their parents are sending me messages like, you are our science teacher in our household. Recently, I got a message saying, you are the reason homeschooling is going well.
Aw, so validating.
And yeah, I know, it's so good. And then in my summer classes, I'm starting to promote my summer classes for this year. And there was a family that said, our daughter has been talking about you since summer classes ended last year. So I'm literally the science teacher of your dreams, right? I'm like dreaming about it.
That's so powerful because I can literally remember, I think it was like probably maybe 7th or 8th grade when I decided I was bad at math. Like I can remember because I was in like in a little advanced math circle. And then I remember just kind of being like, oh, I don't think girls are supposed to do this. I give up, like literally I can remember that moment. And so, I mean, hello, like I went all the way with PhD kind of thing. But still like, I still can't do math very well. Like it's a mental block, and it's a mindset limiting belief, right? It's not actually true. And so, I mean, it's been so validating for me to see my daughter really have like natural talent in like STEM or in science, or she's like, I'm so good at math. And I'm like, yeah, you are, like, go,
Yeah,
like,
girl, yes.
It's amazing to see it. And that's what we were chatting about in the green room was like, will that last? I mean, she's still young enough. Like a lot of times I hear teachers say like 8, 9, 10, 11, like in that little like shift to where like kind of puberty and, becoming a woman by the time they're in middle school, it's like a really different ball game, and the girls just start to, it's like, oh, like my picture doesn't look good anymore. Like I'm going to play small, like they just learn it from each other and from, TV or whatever. And it's so sad to think that that's a thing. And then, another issue just kind of that relates to me is kind of tangential, but like a little bit related is that like when there's a feminization of the field, like, psychology used to be traditionally a male field and now it's like mostly women. And so guess what? The, prices have gone down. Same thing with teaching, like anytime you're in a field that is mostly women, we experience like a huge wage gap. And so here, like, if you go the academic route, I'm like, shit, I should have just been a coach from like, I could have been making money from the beginning instead of wasting 10 years and having a huge student loan payment and all that sort of stuff. Not that it was a waste because there was training, but still like, I could have been like living life and making money versus like paying to learn, paying to work, paying to learn. And so I just think it's so powerful, like when we have women leadership, and it really needs to be in like all the fields, because I personally believe that like even all the way up to college, like it's just the educational system is broken. Like it's not meant to like be fun. It's not meant to be like enriching. It's not really meant to like, it's programming at a certain level, so I just really am hopeful that like people like you who are, taking the joy and putting it back in and doing it your own way. Like I remember when lockdown and COVID happened, like everyone was like, can we just like all get together and like, maybe we can do this better, and I think that's what you're doing, which is so exciting. You're doing it better.
Thank you. Yeah. And I mean, my training in summer school, like informed a lot of this. It was, I loved doing that. It was wonderful because there's no assessment at the end. We're just exploring. right? And that's always informed what I did then in the classroom. But then I have these expectations and tests and blah, blah, blah. And it ruins everything. We all know it ruins everything.
Yeah.
When we try to codify it and yeah.
And they intentionally, I think, make it boring so that people aren't like free thinkers and critical thinkers, and that we won't like cause a ruckus and we won't like challenge the control systems and all that sort of stuff. And so, I think it's just, it's not in our best. It's a system of the patriarchy, and there's some schools that have a little more leeway than others. But like, I really think that, when you see a revolution in school, that's when you're going to see society change,
Yeah. And I also totally. Yeah. And I was just going to say too, like, it's not just like a revolution in school, but I think you're going to start to really see in the next like 10 years a revolution of teachers, because you're right, it is a very feminized profession, but like you've been pushing us around for generations now, and we're just like, I know, right? Because you think we're pushovers. Like you make us get these specialized degrees. Many of us have master's degrees and PhDs, and then you still don't fucking listen to us when we tell you we know what we're doing. We've been, I did the count. I have worked with over 6,000 kids, 6,000, Megan, from elementary school all the way up through high school, summer camps and schools. Like, I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm doing. And so in that moment, when I decided to leave public education, when you tell me I'm not doing it right, you can fuck right off. Absolutely not here to be belittled and professionally gaslit, like I said before. And I think that there's now a movement among teachers that are recognizing that, one, we have to speak up, and we have to get political, and we have to vote people into office who are going to be really on our side. And like going to school boards matters, like being on the union matters. And it took me, kind of until the year before I left to realize, oh my gosh, this matters a lot. It matters who is making these decisions on our behalf, because we should be the ones making decisions, but we don't. That's how our like stupid fucking country works. So then if that's the case, like now we're going to be able to advocate for ourselves. And so I think it's not only just like a revolution in like the curriculum that we teach, and like giving us a little bit more freedom in how we deliver that curriculum, because they're trying to tamp it down now, right? So you can't teach critical race theory in classrooms, and what was happening was it Ohio, wherever it was, that you have to submit all of your lesson plans by June. And I'm sorry, some people are not hired until August. How are they supposed to submit their lesson plans to you? And heaven forbid there's some sort of natural disaster, right? Like a tornado comes through, or in California, it might be like an earthquake or a fire. And or like COVID happens, like you want me to teach the thing that I told you I'd be teaching on October 3rd, but this thing, or fucking school shootings. You know what I mean? Like, there's all of these things that, and so really it's that politicians and men, like, let's be real, men, and like conservative men are trying to control us because they see that we're waking up to the bullshit. So they're trying to put us in a cage, and you're going to just have the best of us, like me, leave.
Yeah.
Because they just want to be able to control. But like, I'm pioneering this path where I'm like, fuck it, I don't need a school. I don't need a school to teach well. I'm teaching well right now. And I have people that have called in from the Netherlands to do my class. People that have called in from Mexico to do my class. It's that important to them. We're on vacation and we're signing into Science with Caitilin. And so I really do think that what you're going to see are teachers who you cannot push around. Or if you continue to push us, we're all going to leave. Yeah. And that's how we're going to start this revolution. And it's very exciting. It's like terrifying, but it's also exciting. And I'm really glad that I decided to leave when I did, because, and I've been going back to substitute teach as, another stream of income. And so it's been really good to kind of have a foot in the pond still. because I can listen to what my colleagues are talking about. I can listen to what the students are talking about. So it continues to inform and also validate this choice that I've made. And when anybody asks me about it, they're just like, oh my God, you're doing it. Oh my God, look at you. You know?
Yeah, you're a total pioneer, like forging your own path. And like, I think back to the teachers that like really inspired me. Like I had an amazing French teacher, you know, I think of like the ones that like really changed my life, and that's like priceless. And so many people, like a lot of the clients I've worked with, like they couldn't count on their parents because I don't know, maybe mental health or addiction or whatever was going on. Like, you know, they didn't have like a stable, positive role model in their life. And a lot of times that is the teacher, like, and a teacher who like gives a fuck and actually can see what's happening and like cares about people. Like, I mean, that can change someone's whole like life path.
Totally. Yes, absolutely. And so, you know, sort of my next flavor of business, I'd love to talk about it just briefly. I know we're probably like way at time, but yeah, I feel very deeply that I have been that teacher for some students, but now I'm no longer in the classroom, right? So people have to find me, and like, it's great and it's awesome, but it is a shame. You know, I had a really huge impact over the last decade plus that I've been in classrooms. Even if, you know, the kid and I never got along, like I'm still like planting that seed in that child's life with my version of science. And of course, early in my career, those kids didn't get the best version of me, but that's okay. That's you don't meet everybody at their best version. I don't think. We're always evolving too. However, you know, if it continues again to happen this way, that teachers are going to leave education entirely. Yeah, I mean, I'm on TikTok and I'm definitely on the teacher talk side. So I'm seeing colleagues, even though they're people that I've never met, and many of them are just quitting. Many of them quit this year. And it's heartbreaking because I can tell, even though
probably the good ones too, you know, like
exactly,
yourself.
I can tell these were the good ones. These are the ones that gave a fuck about their students, and every single one, and they're just pushed out. What a shame. And so I wish at that moment that I was deciding whether to stay or go, that I just would have had anybody who said, I see what you're doing. I see you. This is possible to do, instead of just being like, your curriculum's not rigorous enough. Shut up, I know. It's intentional, damn it. So I also desire to support teachers, because they're the ones who, and I fall into this camp as well, in a way, have learned also that what's celebrated in teaching is martyrdom. What's celebrated as good teaching is to sacrifice all of yourself. Don't eat at lunch, grade papers. Go home at 6 because you're planning for the next day, or go home and take your work with you, eat dinner really quickly, and then plan until 2 a.m. It's horrible. It's culturally unsustainable in the profession of education. So I really desire to work with educators who are looking for sustainability, whether they stay or whether they go. Because me, having worked in K through 12, like all levels of education, I know the unique challenges of being a teacher at each of those levels, but I also know the unique seasons of teaching, because the teacher you are in September is very different from the teacher in November, is very different from the teacher in January and April, and then even May, right?
You're about to retire, you know, like that's a lot of my daughter's teachers have, like, she's had the last round of them. And I thought, like, is that their best year of teaching or their worst year of teaching? Like maybe both, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the year that I was let go, which was such a bullshit story, because I was just doing too much, and the principal was like, she's trouble, right? And so I was let go in February, but I still had to finish the year, right? I wasn't asked to return. Like, what a joke. But then I was like, fuck it. I guess I get to do whatever I want now if you're going to make me stay in this classroom where you don't want me. And the kids were like, it was great. Those were some of the best 4 months of teaching that I've ever had.
Yeah,
because I was
unapologetic teaching. And I think
free.
that's a lesson that I learned really early on is like in order to disrupt the system, you really have to be outside of it because you get punished for disrupting the system,
It's true.
And
Very
so
true.
yeah,
So
and so
teaching teachers, like, and we said, we both sort of swim in these like pleasure-led business circles.
yeah.
But pleasure is not something that I know any teacher does for themselves. Like for them, in order to like unwind, it's sometimes it's like we're gonna drink at a bar, which is fine, which is totally valid. But like if our only means of
Yeah.
supporting ourselves is to like have alcohol, like something is very imbalanced here. So like and now that like again, I'm outside the system now, but I very deeply understand what it is because I like was brought up professionally as a teacher in all the different levels of education. And so I understand what my colleagues are going through. And and I also have detached from the minutia that used to cause me so much grief. And like, I understand why you think this is the most important thing. And what I want the teachers to know is that you are the most important thing. Because if you are burnt out and if you are stressed about every single little thing, like you cannot show up fully for your students. And if the goal is to like be that teacher for at least one kid, you won't be if you haven't eaten, if you haven't slept, if you haven't like read a book for pleasure.
Yeah.
Right.
What I see a lot on the mental health side of things, regardless of your occupation, is like the people that are in a lot of times, the service industry, like a nurse or a therapist or a teacher, working with the public. A lot of times, first of all, they probably had like some trauma. Let's be real. That like, maybe they were a parentified child or whatever, but like that's how they got to be in the service industry and good at it. But then, those industries are like super high burnout. And so what I see for a lot of people is they're workaholics and then they become disabled because they have either really bad health conditions or they have really, they just can't do it anymore. They have a mental health issue. And it's like almost like that kind of thing like forces them out because they won't leave on their own. And I saw that happen with my dad. He was a lawyer and just had a really toxic workplace and he got cancer and he ended up getting forced out. And yet that's why he's still alive is because he didn't keep that, toxic job. And so, having counseled people like, when you think about leaving a job and you're trapped in there because you got to pay the bills, like that is one of the scariest places to be. And I've been trying to make that, change myself to, my dream is to one day close the doors to my private practice. But right now it's, paying the bills mostly. And so, it's just so hard to feel trapped. Like, I feel like that's one of the most stressful human emotions for anybody, wherever you are, whatever you're going through. If you're feeling trapped, that is super stressful in the organism, and you can only do that for so long, right? I mean, you're a science teacher, you tell me, like,
Or for teachers too, like we're 10-month employees. We don't get paid in the summer. So then teachers will take a second job or a third job in the summer and just work year round. When like our job is so unique. And it was really stupid because people tried to like equate us to nurses and being like, nurses are doing their fucking jobs. Why don't you, like, they were like, oh, no. We are not the same. Not the same. Because a nurse does not see 160 kids in a day. Shut the fuck up. And also the nurse was trained to do that thing. We are not trained to be like the front line of your virus. Like, no, that is not what we're here to do. We're literally here to teach curriculum, and we do all these other things because nobody else is doing them. But like, we're not gonna sacrifice ourselves, but then we feel like we're supposed to because it's our job. And that whole thing about being, trapped is what a lot of, I guess that was a non sequitur, like, but important, but yeah, a lot of teachers, either like can't take time off, or they stay in a job because they know that that's where their paycheck is coming from. And so for me too, I had two coaches at a time at the time that I was deciding whether to stay or go. And it was really, I could play it out in my head. If I stay, I'm fucked anyway.
Yeah.
Because I don't believe in this. Like the direction that my school is going, I don't believe in it. So I can't do this.
So brave.
Oh,
so many people think that.
So
many people think that and stay, and that's when you're out of integrity with yourself.
So true. So true. I mean, that's how it was with my marriage too. I realized like, I can't stay. I don't, I feel dead anyway, And so I guess I personally have a high tolerance for that kind of risk, it seems, because I kind of do it over and over again. And it's
but that's why you're the perfect coach, right?
I'm the perfect coach, but also because I've pioneered this path, so that you don't have to pioneer the path, right?
Go further faster.
Yeah, exactly. And so like if my child's here. Hold on one moment.
I love that, Caitlin can take a minute to talk to her kid, because that was really what really struck me about the coaching industry. Was I would see these like amazing coaches who were nursing their kids during a session, or like, hold on, I can be my whole person. I can stop and talk to my kid. I just love it. So thank you for demonstrating that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was my little one was informing me that he and his brother swapped watching devices. Like, look, Mom, we switched. I'm like, okay. So cute. Wait, what were we talking about? Oh, pioneering the path, right? And so yes, I agree with you, right? Like the reason I'm the perfect coach, especially for a teacher who feels trapped right now, and that describes a lot of teachers who care so deeply about the kids that they work with, but are not simultaneously receiving or within a community that fills their cup too.
Yeah.
So
and that community piece is huge.
Huge, right? So these teachers are not only feeling isolated emotionally, but they may be siloed in their classrooms where kids may be really struggling and they're racking their brains, like hours on Pinterest, or teachers pay teachers to get ideas. And then they try something and it fails. And then that's when the principal decides to do their walkthrough. And then has nothing positive to say, or has a pithy like, oh, good job. Like it's exhausting. And then on top of that, I have to come back tomorrow. Right?
Yeah.
So again, my vision is to have teachers who in the moment have tools at their disposal to like connect back with their body, because we operate from like here up, right?
Totally.
Going around because we were all the smartest in our class kind of thing. We're very intelligent and we care very deeply about our job. So if we just reason through the problem, we'll be able to fix it. But you cannot do that day after day, after week, after month, after year, after year, after year, right? So the disassociation is very, very high right now. Like we're not connected to our bodies, but it's very scary to do something differently if you don't have a coach who's practiced it and will tell you, I know this is different. I know this feels scary. And you know that you can't continue the way that you've been going. And what's different about like me than a therapist, right? Like, I don't have training in the psychology or whatever it is, but I deeply understand the unique seasons, the unique challenges.
You've lived it, yeah.
Lived it for decades and all the different grade levels. And so I do know about like the adolescent brain, and I do know about how like learning works. And yet like we have been absent from the conversation, us as people. And so I encourage all teachers to just get support, whatever they feel is right for them, whether it is a therapist or someone like me, because I think investing in ourselves is the next part of the revolution, right? Because we work off of shoestring budgets. We make things work with, tape and popsicle sticks. We somehow teach about chemistry that way, models and stuff. Oh man, the things like I've done with paper, I tell you, it's incredible. And yet I think it's time that teachers decide, or my wish for them is to decide that you are the most important person in that classroom. Yes, those students are important, but but we have to relearn how to take care of ourselves. And it's not just like take self-care and take a bubble bath. Like that might work, but we need tools and strategies that we can pull on in the moment, in the middle of a stressful job, when we recognize I'm having those feelings. I know I can't throw hands, but I'd really like to. Like get back to yourself so that you can have a sustainable career. Or if you are at your breaking point and you've decided it's really time for me to go, I also went through that, oh my God, now I'm not a teacher. Like here I am again, like after graduating from college, like I don't know how to human. When I left the classroom, I don't know how to human. What do I do if I don't have the external gratification of a student having that aha moment? Now I'm my student. Oh shit. How do I even manage my time? I guess I better like be on Facebook all the time selling stuff, right? So I've figured out how to hold myself through that transition of leaving the classroom. So I can help a teacher who really desperately wants to stay, and I can help the teacher that's really ready to go.
So tell us how, like we've already talked about maybe Linda being in the learning laboratory. Definitely sold me on that, like, yes, you have a gift. So like tell us how, where do we find you? How do we work with you?
I'm so excited that you're going to be joining. I know I've been seducing Megan for a little while, and so I'm really looking forward. She's going to love it. And I'm going to take it. And this is what I always said, like, I'm going to take exquisite care of your child. Like, please don't worry. I know you're not, but like, I will take exquisite care of your child. And I can say that with certainty. So if you have a kiddo who is interested in doing science with me, I teach ages 4 to 14. And this summer I have 2 ways that you can work with me. Essentially, I have 2 3-week classes, 3 weeks in June and 3 weeks in July. And the course for my 4 to 8-year-olds, it's chemistry fundamentals with an emphasis on the fun. And then for our 9 to 14-year-olds, we have kitchen chemistry. They're essentially the same class, but the experiments that we do are slightly different and tailored perfectly to our sweet scientist brains. And if you decide to bundle both months together, you get a juicy discount. So my normal is a 6-week session with like a break in the middle. But I know that summer plans, like people go away, and so then they can't always commit to 6 weeks. So you get to choose your own science adventure. And the way that you would enroll is going to my website at joyfullearninglaboratory.com. And there are, I think my classes are Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. And I had to, choose times that I thought, okay, both West Coast and East Coast could probably join us. And so I think you'll find really, really great options for your family to join. And if you're listening as an educator and interested in working with me, I am really excited to talk to you. I think the best way would be to email me, which you can get to from my website, but you can also email me at joyfullearninglaboratory@gmail.com. And then I'll be able to talk to you about my exciting up and coming program called the Radiant Teacher School.
Ooh, I love that. I'm all about radiance. And I just want to say, like, what really draws me to you is just your passion. And so I love hearing you be such a powerful truth teller and an insider on the outside now, telling us what's up and what needs to change in our schools and looking out for our kiddos, which, they're our future. So I think that's like the most important thing out there. So thank you so much for spending the evening with me.
Thank you for having a late night just for me.
I know. Literally, I had a 9 a.m. and a 10 a.m. podcast.
You're busy today. My goodness.
Yeah, it's like a faded day. All my favorite people. And we're doing a late night. Usually I'm like in the morning, kind of like with my cup of coffee, like, a little bit like drowsy. But now I'm feeling like a little naughty in late night. But
right. It's our red lipstick. We were talking before too about like, who are we even? Oh, Megan, this was so delightful. I would love to come back and talk to you again.
Yeah, anytime, please.
Yeah.
I'm loving that. I'm having a lot of the people that I loved chatting with, where we could just talk for hours, clearly, come back and then, do another round of conversation. So you're welcome back anytime.
Yes. I love that.
Go check out Caitilin and get your kiddos in there so that they're not all like burned out and hating learning and feeling like they're not good at it when really actually they're hella smart, like you say, right?
Yeah, I say that, through this class, it just so happens that I teach science, but really what we do in kitchen chemistry and chemistry fundamentals, like really what I do in the Joyful Learning Laboratory is hold a mirror up to your child and help them see their own genius. And it just so happens we also do science. But this
Science plus.
Science plus. Yes, exactly. It's Science plus. And like, how gorgeous will our future be if we just have empowered children that know because they had a teacher that was telling them over and over again. I never thought about doing it that way. That was so cool the way you solved that problem. Oh, wow. I really appreciated that you cleaned that up right away. Thank you so much for supporting your mom and dad by cleaning up that mess. Or
you can teach them to clean. Oh my God, you sold me. No.
Oh yeah. Just giving them permission to be like, what if I did this? Like, that's a great idea. As long as your mom's okay, like go ahead and do that. But it's like giving children permission to be the conductors of their learning. I give them the materials and I tell them, what we're doing. But I definitely have kids that are like, who now know that it's safe for them to say, wait, Caitilin, I wasn't listening. Can you repeat those directions? And we'll say,
that's an important life skill.
So important. And I go, yes, it is my favorite thing to repeat the directions to you. It is safe to do that. It is safe to have like a moment where your brain wanders because nobody can focus here and doing a thing. And there's so much happening, right? It's so much stimulus. And so in my program, it's just the whole human gets to come. And if that whole human has a meltdown, it's like, great, you're having some feelings. Let me know how I can support you. And if that human, like one of my kids, for a whole session, not a single one of his experiments worked. But he begged his mom to come back. Because it's not about doing it right. It's just about showing up and trying. And then the second time he came back, every single one of his experiments worked.
Oh, what a powerful testimonial. I'm so glad you shared that. And like, what if, God, I mean, I know one of the scariest things for me is like fear of failure. And it's like, what if that wasn't a fear? What could I do? What would be possible?
What would be possible?
Yeah, love it. Well, I have to get home to my little ones, but I could talk to you all night. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We'll definitely have you back. And we'll fill up those learning labs of all these little genius kids who are going to go on to change the world. And all the coaches kids.
Thank you so much for talking to me.
Yeah, and all the coaches kids are in there. So, if you want your kid to be a leader in the future.
It's so true. Like it's all the coaches' kids. So like you're all in good company. And man, but I'm telling you, it's gonna sell out this summer. So if y'all are curious, y'all are interested, time to get on it because your girl's gonna be dropping in some other podcasts and lots of people across the country are gonna be hearing about me. So if you don't want to get waitlisted,
get your spot. Yeah. All right, everybody. I'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Divine Feminine Revolution podcast. Make sure to subscribe and leave a 5-star review. Want to keep the conversation flowing? Find us on Facebook at the Divine Feminine Revolution Facebook group, where revolutionary women gather to listen to their hearts, monetize their gifts, and change the world.